Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Learn with Lo. I am Lauryn Moore. I'm a functional nutrition practitioner. I'm super excited to join you guys today. I have another great month of series planned for us. Last month we got to really do a deep dive into autoimmune disease and more of a functional medicine approach and definition to it. And I'm excited to jump into a very similar topic. A lot of people with autoimmune disease also struggle with things like fatigue. And I would say that fatigue is probably the number one symptom that individuals come to me in private practice and have on their intake form. While fatigue tends to be very, very common, I think it's also highly normalized in our society. And while a lot of us, like I said, we do have a lot of responsibilities on our plate, I don't want anyone to ever feel like any amount of fatigue or exhaustion is normal, right? So if you're out there and you feel like you're someone that kind of fits the mold of waking up exhausted, you're dragging yourself through the day, you're wondering why no amount of sleep ever feels like it seems to be enough, I see you. That's what today's episode is for. And if you've been told that your labs are just normal when you have this excessive fatigue, exhaustion, even after sleeping well, but you know deep down that something is off, you're not crazy, you are not alone. Fatigue is not just about being tired, right? This is like that bone deep exhaustion that makes even the simplest things like getting through your email inbox or playing with your children or making dinner. It makes all of those things feel very overwhelming. And if you've been dismissed or you've just been handed another cup of coffee to get through your day or told just to manage your stress better, I want you to know that there is a deeper reason for how you're feeling. And more importantly, there is a way to correct it as well too. So when we talk about fatigue, we're going to today at least really talk about going beyond the surface and discuss why you're actually so exhausted. Because fatigue is not normal and it's not just something that you have to deal with. We're also going to walk through some of the biggest root causes of fatigue that get ignored in maybe more of a conventional medicine conversation. And we're going to talk about the low down methods to really see fatigue different and treat fatigue differently as well too. Because if we understand more of the root cause etiology of like, why is this individual feeling so fatigued? We can actually meet them with better solutions than, like I said, just pumping them full of more coffee or trying to give them sleep sedatives or told to just like manage our stress better. And then last but not least, by the end of this episode today, I want to make sure that you fully understand not only why your energy is tanked, but also have some real tangible next steps to get to feeling like yourself again, right? So I've helped countless people, maybe just like yourself, if you're out there feeling like you fit into this very common fatigue bucket. I've helped hundreds of people just get their energy back by uncovering the real root causes behind their fatigue. And I want you to know that there is another way to look at this. And you do not have to accept that burnout or exhaustion and crashing by 3 o'clock every day is just your reality. So get comfy, grab a cup of tea, or maybe you're running on your third coffee and it's only lunchtime. We'll talk about that too. And let's really dive into it. So in this first part today, let's really discuss why conventional medicine often misdiagnoses fatigue or sometimes even just kind of sweeps fatigue under the rug until it gets to a point where it's accompanied by multiple other symptoms or multiple other comorbidities. And that's usually because fatigue is one of the most common culprits of complaints in a doctor's office. I hate to use the word complain, but I would say fatigue is more common than not one of the most top symptoms of why someone seeks medical care in the first place. And more of a conventional medicine approach to that is more often than not, we'll hope at least at the basic level that we're running some lab work, maybe a basic metabolic panel. They'll probably want to check your iron levels. They'll probably want to check a thyroid panel, even if they just grab like a TSH or a free T4. More often than not, those are kind of some of the basic metabolic panels, basic micronutrient panels that they're going to run when you're expressing some excessive fatigue, burnout, or exhaustion. If nothing on those labs really looks glaringly wrong or obvious, everything looks fine, then you'll probably be just given options for either some stress management medications, like some anti-anxiety medications, some antidepressant medications. Maybe you'll be given some options for like some stimulant type medications as well too, to keep you active, alert, awake. Or if you feel like you're excessively fatigued, but you also express that you're fatigued because you feel like you're not sleeping well, then maybe you're handed a sleep sedative and you're on your way, right? So really the focus there in more of a conventional medicine setting when we express fatigue is more on like just detecting if there's any visible disease. And that is exactly what we need from conventional medicine and more of the sick care model. That is their goal. And that is what their toolbox is really freaking good at, is identifying any of these big medical diagnoses, or more of your like triage situation. They're not necessarily designed for looking for optimal function. So if the fatigue is being mixed into some of these other root causes, they probably are going to get overlooked, which is why then more of my approach with the low down methods, I'm asking a little bit different question, right? I'm asking, why is your energy low in the first place? And that's where we get to really look at then transitioning the mindset to, what are some of the top root causes for fatigue for individuals that are saying that they're waking up and feeling exhausted even after a full night's sleep? People that are finding themselves dependent on caffeine or stimulants to get themselves through the day. People that find themselves absolutely just crashing by 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Practically narcoleptic, right? So these excessive fatigue, burnout, exhaustion, it's a symptom, right? It's not a diagnosis in and of itself. So we have to really take a look at what are some of the potential deeper underlying culprits. Number one that I think a lot of times we kind of miss from maybe more of a conventional medicine standpoint is blood sugar dysregulation issues. That causes a lot of fatigue in individuals, especially at maybe more of the like introductory levels. Like it's the first layer that we really need to look at. So if you're riding a blood sugar roller coaster all day long and you don't know it, you might have blood sugar highs, which then crash you into blood sugar lows. Riding that blood sugar roller coaster every day usually feels like a lot of cravings, usually a lot of cravings for specifically sweets or sugar, cravings or a need for caffeine, experiencing a lot of afternoon crashes, waking up tired even if you've gotten enough sleep, or even getting woken up in the middle of the night a lot, like between 1 and 3 a.m. If you're someone that doesn't sleep very soundly, you may have blood sugar issues, okay? And this is where sometimes too, we hear, if it is a blood sugar issue that's causing the fatigue, sometimes I also hear accompanying symptoms like people getting really hangry between meals, or they feel like they have a lot of brain fog, weight loss resistance, like those types of symptoms going together. Like I'm fatigued, I have weight loss resistance, I have a lot of brain fog, I find myself really hangry if I don't eat consistently. Like I'm thinking blood sugar. I'm not just thinking that person like, oh, we just need to sleep a little bit better, or, oh, we just need to manage some stress. It's like, there's some deeper blood sugar issues going on. So that could be one thing that's kind of missed from a conventional medicine standpoint, but from a functional medicine standpoint, when we think about fatigue, I'm absolutely doing a deeper dive workup on what is blood sugar doing. Number two, that is a little bit more sciencey. This is going to take us back to our biochemistry days of maybe our high school or college experiences. But a lot of times I do see fatigue accompanying what we call mitochondrial dysfunction, right? If you've heard of the term mitochondria, they are, yes, the little powerhouses of our cells that are responsible for turning our food into usable energy. So believe it or not, when food enters the body, it enters as like protein or carbohydrates or fats, right? And then our digestive system has to break those foods down into tiny, tiny, tiny individual components like amino acids or glucose molecules or fatty acids. And then those individual substrates have to get taken up into the cell. And then the cell actually turns those into what's called ATP, which is actual usable cellular energy. So there's lots of different points to our food actually becoming energy for our cells. And if there are some issues with the mitochondria of our cells, that can really impact overall energy. So chronic low-grade inflammation, chronic low-grade infection in the body, toxins or nutrient deficiencies, all of these things can impair our body's ability to get to that full ATP kind of phase. And so therefore, of course, our little cellular energy factories are going to be just dismantled. So of course, you're not going to feel the energy because you're not even able to extract the energy that you're supposed to from your food, right? So key B vitamin deficiencies, CoQ10 deficiencies, magnesium deficiencies, like these things can absolutely impair our body's ability to get energy from our food. So that's one that we definitely look at from a functional medicine perspective, but I'm doubtful that your doctor, your conventional doctor, if you go in asking about fatigue, they probably haven't talked to you about your mitochondria, right? It's probably not a common conversation that comes up, and that's okay. The other, like I said, number 3 that I really do a full workup on if someone's coming to me for fatigue is thyroid dysfunction. So even your normal labs can miss it. If you follow along with my stories, I did post this weekend about a topic like subclinical hypothyroidism, where a lot of people are being told like, oh, labs are ship-shape, your TSH looks great, but actually their TSH is definitely trending into the subclinical hypothyroid range, and nobody has just told them and nobody has caught that. So that's why sometimes too, TSH alone is not a sufficient thyroid panel in my opinion. So if I am curious about how someone's thyroid function is impacting their overall energy levels, we're absolutely going to do a full thyroid panel workup. We're going to be looking at different patterns, relationships, not just absolute TSH number, right? I think it's a good starting spot, but also we have to know like what reference range are we looking for, because I've seen a lot of people where they're like, oh yeah, my doctor told me my TSH is normal, but it's at like 3.5. And I'm like, that's not normal to me. That would be subclinical hypothyroidism. We also want to make sure that we take a look at overall adrenal function. Cortisol can definitely be a culprit for poor energy production. Chronic stress does really wear on our overall adrenals, those glands that sit right on top of your kidneys. That's why some people have fatigue in the morning and then they kind of get this like second wind in the nighttime, or right before they're trying to fall asleep, they feel like wired but tired. So a lot of times, again, adrenal dysfunction or improper circadian rhythm leaves someone feeling like I cannot peel myself out of bed, but then at night I can't rest myself, right? I can't wind down. That means that our circadian rhythm is off and our overall cortisol regulation is off as well too. And then last but not least, of course, we have to look at from an energy balance standpoint, things like gut dysfunction, right? If we're taking in all of these proteins, carbs, and fats, but our digestive system isn't doing a great job at digesting those down to individual components or absorbing them so that they can actually get to our cells or our mitochondria for energy, then there's a kink in the chain, right? So it has to go from food to digestion to cellular energy. If there's any kink in that chain, that can throw things off as well too. So we definitely are looking from a functional medicine perspective. I'm not just thinking like, oh, a basic metabolic panel, here's an iron workup. Like, I'm not really sure why you're fatigued. Maybe here's a sleep sedative. Here's some anti-anxiety medications. Here's some stimulants. I'm looking at blood sugar, metabolic dysfunction like mitochondria, thyroid dysfunction, adrenal patterns, gut health, nutrient absorption. Like, that's what I'm talking about when I say a workup for somebody that is struggling with fatigue. Okay, so if that's been your experience, you may not have really gotten a really thorough workup for someone to help you dive into what the root causes of that fatigue are. Okay, we're going to deep dive into this even more in some future episodes together, but to really kind of wrap up, at least starting with this conversation of fatigue, how can you start addressing fatigue today? Right? Because there's definitely some tools that you can use. And the good news is that these are real tangible steps that you can start to take. Some of them, like I said, requiring zero additional labs at all, okay? So first and foremost, we have to have a reality check on how you're fueling your body, okay? So if we're talking about fatigue, we can talk about like the science and the deep dive here, but if you're exhausted, I need to at least double check and maybe even lovingly call out something that I see all of the time in practice. And that is individuals that are either intentionally or unintentionally straight up under fueling themselves, okay? How are we supposed to get energy if we're not fueling ourselves correctly, okay? This is a low-hanging fruit. So if your breakfast is an oat milk latte, like, we need to talk. Okay, that is not a meal. If your lunch is a handful of almonds and some green juice while you power through work, I promise you that is not enough. And if you tell me I'm not really hungry in the morning, my question will be, are you just running off of stress hormones instead of like real fuel? Okay, so I say this with love. Coffee is not a meal. Celery juice is not a lunch. And if you're running on caffeine, adrenaline, and a prayer, then it's no wonder why your body is hitting a wall. Okay, so if we need to double check that there's even just enough energy going into the tank, enough fuel going into the tank, we got to do that first. Okay, that's just sheer like, is there enough coming in? Then the second layer is obviously we're going to talk about the energetic medicine behind food. Okay, this is something that sets me and my low down methods apart from a lot of other functional practitioners out there who really just think nutrition is about elimination diets. I'm like, no, what are we adding to the mixture here? Because food is more than just fuel. Food is literally an energetic force if we use it to our advantage. It is the biological language of the body, and it speaks directly to ourselves. Okay, so you think about food, especially all of like nature's foods that are very alive, right? We have gardens that are being fueled by the sun, that are being fueled by the soil, right? So there's literal energy. We call them photons of light and molecular energy that are being sucked up into that plant. They are absorbing that into their fibers, into their pigments, and then we eat those plants and those whole unprocessed food sources, and we receive this light energy that is stored in those plants, okay? This becomes the foundation for our cellular function. This is why food is not just macronutrients and this is not just calories, okay? If you are still thinking about food as macros and calories, you are missing the mark. Like, I am talking about the vibrational energy that can enhance or disrupt your body's natural rhythms. So I talk a lot about food that is alive versus talking about food that's dead, right? So if you're curious about this, like blood sugar regulation, food as energetic medicine, am I eating enough? Like, the very first thing that I would do today is go to my website, sign up for my 6-week Master Your Metabolism Masterclass. Do not press go. Get over there and do that. And you can also take advantage of my sale for this month of March, which is 20% off of all of my products and services by launching my new website. So you can use the code website20, all one word, all caps. You can go to my website, purchase Master Your Metabolism Masterclass for 20% off, and really dive into like step one, day one. Why am I so fatigued? Why am I so exhausted? Like, we got to stop there first. Okay. Then, of course, we want to talk about things like improving sleep patterns, talk about circadian rhythm. Like, not only do we want to eat foods that absorb the sun, get outside, right? Get morning sun on our eyes and our skin. Don't spend all day inside being inundated with blue light and artificial light. Your body has no idea what time it is, and that can really struggle then for our overall circadian rhythm, for our overall stress levels, for our overall sleep analysis, right? We may need to make some small shifts in that total daily routine. We'll probably need more time in nature. We may need some stress resilience tools, some relaxation practices, an actual evening routine that isn't just watching Netflix all the way up until the time we want to go to bed. We'll probably need to reconfigure some of those circadian rhythm patterns as well too. So last but not least, then once we kind of, like I said, get through Am I fueling myself correctly? Am I really taking advantage of the energetic medicine behind food? Am I realigning my circadian rhythm patterns? Then, of course, we can talk about functional testing. We can talk about a deeper insight. Maybe that's deeper hormone workup for things like blood sugar, including like your fasting insulin. We can actually do a full thyroid panel, not just TSH and free T4. Maybe we do some microbiome testing to really understand how you're digesting and absorbing your food. Personalized approaches always work wonders. But again, the functional testing is there as we master some of these other things first. So don't think you have to skip to any fancy dancy testing. It's all about like, am I getting a lot of those foundational pieces in play first? So key takeaways for us today. Fatigue is not just about sleep. It is a whole body systemic issue that really requires us digging into what is your unique root cause, okay? So share this episode with someone that you know is struggling with fatigue or burnout or exhaustion. And like I said, if you're ready to jump into what this journey looks like, you can do that 100% self-guided by going to the link in my bio, click my website, head over to Master Your Metabolism Masterclass under my on-demand courses. Get access to that for 20% off here through the month of March. And then also know that more support is available. If you're curious, you can always go to Next Level and sign up for things like a functional wellness consult together, where we can start to order some of those more in-depth labs and really take a deeper dive look at where your fatigue or exhaustion might be coming from. So you don't have to live that way. It's way more than stress. It's way more than sleep. And know that, like I said, your fatigue has answers and we'll find them. So hopefully this was a helpful start for our series of month of March. Enjoy the rest of your Monday and we'll see you guys next week.